CFSers, we are back with the Preventative Warm Up series. I know you've been waiting for it. Knee people, you're up. You're a knee guy, you need to listen. Knee people, we're thinking about strengthening and loosening around, above, below the joint, just like we were with the shoulders. This time, we're thinking about external rotation again, but this time of the hips. So just like we talked about external rotation of the shoulders, external rotation of the hips. The best strengthening you can do for your knees is strengthen your glutes and hamstrings, and primarily your glutes and your hips, so you can externally rotate and not be so quad dominant. Really common with knee people to have tight quads, strong quads, and they want to do everything with their quads. Knee forward, and they don't rotate out enough. They tend to rotate in, and putting a lot of strain on the knees, grinding away at your cartilage, which is what we don't want to do. So for our strengthening, we're going to think mostly about squatting. The rest of the world says don't squat because it's bad for your knees. CrossFit, we do everything that they tell us not to, and so we're going to squat to fix our knees. So we're going to work on our ice cream position. Everybody knows there's no carbs, no calories. When in this position, heels down, nice and relaxed, should be able to eat ice cream all day like this, and it doesn't count. So this is the ice cream squat. You're going to practice this. If you can't get into this position, and this is good for back people too, you're with your heels down and you're kind of resting on your haunches, knees are lined up with the toes, maybe even a little bit wider, you've got issues. So this is a great place to start. Work on your flexibility and mobility and being able to be in this position. Third world countries, they have a fraction of the knee and back problems we have, and they sit like this very often. They don't use chairs nearly as much as we do. But what we're going to do is we're going to use that position during our warm-ups to learn how to strengthen our external rotator. So what I'm doing is I'm emphasizing my feet being straight forward, and I'm kind of relaxed right here, and this is an unloaded type position. We wouldn't go to this deep on a weighted squat, but it's okay to relax here and stretch out a little bit. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on tension to kind of the bottom of my squat. Toes are straight forward. I'm going to go on tension, and I'm going to press those knees out. What you'll feel is your glutes working to do that. And then I'm going to let them come in and relax just a little bit, and out. And then I'm going to relax, and out. So what I'm doing is finding the ability and the strength in my glutes to come onto tension like the bottom of a squat and press my knees out and engage the glutes during that squat. The rest of our strengthening for this is going to be just during your workouts. Your emphasis needs to be toes forward, maybe slightly toed out, but I see people toe out way too much, and all that does is make their knees be in from the orientation of their toes. We want the toes not quite straight, maybe toed out slightly, but we want the knees as wide, if not wider. We've got a lot of people, especially with tight ankles, that like to turn their feet out and let their knees come in. So that's something you're going to have to work on, and that's a great position during your warm-up while you're watching TV and eating your homemade ice cream from raw milk from grass-fed cows. It's a great time to work on that. Relax, go on tension, but everything you're thinking is externally rotating, just like we were with the shoulders. So that's strengthening. You can also think about that on the deadlifts. Strengthening your hamstrings, again, is going to take away from maybe some of that quad dominance. Strengthening your hamstrings, obviously, is going to be deadlifting. It's going to be tough to get enough load on them during a warm-up, I feel like, to really work on that. But you can also externally rotate slightly on your deadlifts. You'll see a lot of people deadlift where the knees come in. We want the knees out, if anything, on the deadlift.